Well, a man named Seamus went on a safari with his wife and mother-in-law. One morning, the wife awakens to find her mother missing. In a worried state, she wakes up Seamus and they both go looking for her. Suddenly, they come to a clearing where they find the mother-in-law standing face to face with a ferocious lion. "Quick, darling, do something," screams the wife. "Oh, no," says Seamus. "The lion got himself into this mess. He can get himself out of it." Today we have the curing of St. Peter's mother-in-law. A wonderful, touching story where you see the humanity of Christ, his compassion. He sees Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed, and it says she had a fever. If you look up the original language, it said she was on fire, that she was burning with a fever, probably very threatening, even maybe life-threatening at that time. And so the Lord shows his compassion. He takes her by the hand, and we now see his divinity. He rebukes the fever, just like he would rebuke the wind and the waves and the storm. Jesus rebukes the fever. It says immediately the fever is gone. It's a complete, total, instantaneous cure of St. Peter's mother-in-law. So much so, she's completely healed. She's filled with energy. She gets up and cooks them a meal. She serves them. See, the Lord is very smart. He knew who the best cook in the family was. He did not want St. Peter to do the cooking. That's obvious. Look at that beautiful passage. It shows us that Jesus is the divine physician. Jesus is the divine healer. And just by his very words, the divinity of Christ shines through, where he can cure at an instant. And not only does the fever go away, but she is completely made whole again. So Jesus is that, I love that title, the divine physician, because everybody's in need of healing. I believe emotional, physical, spiritual healing. And Jesus is that divine healer that we're going to be receiving in just a few moments at Holy Communion, his body, blood, soul, and divinity. If you go to the Holy Land today, there's a beautiful church built over St. Peter's house. We know that the ruins of the synagogue is there. Synagogue is mentioned in the first sentence of the gospel. Jesus left the synagogue and then entered the house of Simon. It's very close, maybe 100 yards away. If you go there today, they built the church with a glass floor, so you can look down 20, 30 feet and see St. Peter's house. And we know from 3rd and 4th century excavations in history that an original church was built over Peter's house as early as the 2nd and 3rd century. And it is a wonderful event which really affected the apostles and St. Peter himself to have this cure. Now, it's interesting, it mentions St. Peter's mother-in-law, which indicates that St. Peter had been married. One speculation was that Peter was a widower, that his wife had died. But if you read 1 Corinthians, St. Paul mentions Peter's wife as one of the followers of Christ. So it's interesting that here you have like a husband and wife couple. And if you look up some of the ancient traditions, there's a tradition that St. Peter's wife was martyred for the faith about 1 year before St. Peter himself. So perhaps she is a martyr, and in that case would be a saint as well. But Jesus called Peter to leave his family and to follow him and to become eventually, obviously, a bishop and the first pope of the Catholic Church. If you watch the Chosen series, St. Peter's wife has a great role in that series. Again, it's all speculation. We don't know for sure. But either way, it is an interesting thing to see this miracle. But Jesus doesn't just cure her. After sunset, it says the whole town arrived at the door. Why did they have to wait till sunset? Well, we know that this was on the Sabbath. And so they were not allowed to carry mats and bring people, the poor, the sick, to Jesus, because it would be considered work to carry the crippled or the paralyzed. But once they saw that the sun had gone down, it says they all came to Jesus with various diseases. It said the whole town, says he cured them. And he drove out many demons. So Jesus did not only heal people physically, he healed them spiritually by driving out demons. But notice it says he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. In Mark's gospel, this is called the messianic secret, that Jesus did not want the demons to reveal who he was. He wanted to do it on the Heavenly Father's timetable. He did not want the devil and the demons who knew who he was to reveal too early in his ministry who he was. He wanted to have things unfold according to the Father's plan. And then it says, even after he had cured people all night long, he got up early the next day. It says before dawn, and he found a deserted place to pray, probably out in the desert or up on the mountain or down by the lakeshore. Jesus always made time for prayer to commune with his Heavenly Father. So the message too today is, if the Lord made time for prayer, we too have to make time for prayer. Prayer doesn't just happen. We have to make time to pray. So we should ask ourselves, do we make time to pray? Do we make time to go to daily Mass, to receive Jesus every day of our life? Do we make time to perhaps get up early and make a holy hour, or to pray a rosary, or to read scriptures or the liturgy of the hours? We have to make time for prayer. It just doesn't happen. We have to make time for prayer. And then the gospel concludes by the apostles finding out where Jesus was and says, everyone is looking for you. Jesus says we must continue to move on to nearby villages and preach everywhere. That is why I have come. So Jesus came to preach the gospel, to heal the sick, to cast out demons, to save souls, to convert sinners, to evangelize, and to spread the faith. In fact, that is the mission of the Diocese of Arlington as well, to preach the gospel, to help the poor, the needy, the suffering, and to evangelize. So I just want to, at the end here, just mention for a minute that next weekend is the Bishop's Lenten Appeal, Commitment Sunday. So today is the announcement Sunday for the Bishop's Lenten Appeal. So which means that in the mail this week, hopefully you'll get the envelope from the Bishop's office, and I encourage you as we begin Lent in a few weeks, the 14th of February, that you consider making a sacrificial donation, almsgiving, as a good Lenten sacrifice. Lent's about prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. So think about giving a sacrificial donation to the Bishop's Lenten Appeal, which helps to evangelize our diocese, to preach the gospel, to help the poor, the sick, the needy. We take care of refugees and immigrants in our diocese. We educate our 45 to 50 seminarians. We help out families that are struggling financially, and rent and other bills that they have, to help save babies in the pro-life movement in the diocese, educating tens of thousands of young people in our 45 Catholic grade schools and our 4 Catholic high schools, our Catholic campus ministry at Mason and Mary Washington, and in our other places in our diocese. So just pray about it this week when you get that in the mail. Realize that the church, our diocese, is continuing the mission of Christ, preaching the gospel, evangelizing, and helping the poor and suffering. And next weekend on Commitment Sunday, when you fill out your pledge card, please pray about it and give a generous sacrifice as a Lenten sacrifice to continue the work of Christ.